Okay guys, I'm here today with the great Garry Tonon, huge honor for me. And guys, today Gary's gonna explain to us here what is heisting in Jiu-Jitsu. And he's showing an entire instruction all about that. And I think you guys kind of started doing that and this became very popular. Like you, Gordon, and the whole John Danaher's team. Because many times you guys are playing guard, but it almost looks like the idea is to stand up and take them down. So can you really explain like what's the heisting? Show some examples here, Gary.
Yeah, man. And I agree with you. You know, I definitely think that some of us like pioneered, some of the things. It's not to say that nobody's ever heisted in the sport before, but you see it less and less in jiu-jitsu because I think we kind of have this agreement, and John's talked about this with us before, like when we're doing jiu-jitsu, that I'm in my guard, I'm going to play bottom position, you're on top, I'm going to try to sweep you, you're going to try to pass, and that sort of thing. And probably one of the most common places you see heisting used, in a different sport is like mixed martial arts, right? People heist all the time because the consequences of being in bottom position are so severe. But the consequences of being in bottom position, I would argue a lot of people in jiu-jitsu think of the bottom position as almost better than top position because, looking at like ADCC when points are scored and this, that, and the other thing, I think sometimes for many people, it's very difficult to pass. And they look at sweeping somebody as a little bit easier. So they're like, oh man, I'll play bottom, I'll play guard, whatever the case may be. But what ends up happening is you end up in these very like kind of one-dimensional jiu-jitsu styles where I'm scooting on my butt, trying to pull you in, You're staying back, you're poking and prodding me with your hands. And because I don't make enough of a commitment to move forward and to come up and to do all these things, I can never really get the game going, especially if I want to do something like, for example, leg lock my opponent. I need access to his legs. He just keeps his knees on the mat, keeps his upper body ahead of me. And every time I go to try, Bernardo's a big guy. I'm not going to be able to just pull from a seated position and get him onto me. So I think one of the best matches, as an example that I ever had to demonstrate this, was with Paul Harris. At a certain point in time, Paul Harris recognized like I wanted to attack his legs. So he played very much like this. So I did a ton of things where I heisted up. He went to get up also. And as he went to get up, then I went right back underneath and started attacking his legs.
That is awesome.
And it creates a multi-dimensional situation where I'm not just play bottom and I stay here. It's like, oh, I'm not committed to this. I can also come up. And you might ask yourself, well, why does Bernardo have to get up? It's like, well, so when I heist, if Bernardo doesn't get up, I get to snap his head down.
Yeah.
And then I look to take his back. So it's kind of, the heisting itself creates a dilemma where if you don't follow me, you're vulnerable to other things. And that's kind of what this whole DVD is about, trying to figure out like how we can best use heisting to get into somebody's legs, to take somebody's back, to snap somebody down, to make our game a little bit more dynamic. And one of the things you notice in that match with Paul Harris is incredibly exciting. Why? Because there's a ton of movement. I created that movement through the heisting. If I had just stayed here butt scooting, you would have seen maybe one leg entrance every 2 or 3 minutes. But because of the heisting, you're seeing one every 10 seconds. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, and while you were talking, I was just thinking here about what you said. Like, it's almost like you're breaking that agreement that you're going to play guard and I'm going to pass.
Right. And
that creates a lot of dynamic in the match because now you're playing guard, but you're also working on takedowns. You're also working on reverting, like snapping it down, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And that sets a precedent for something that I think John talks about often too, which is when you're kind of laser focused on one specific thing and it's very predictable. You know what the threat is. Yeah. And when I have multiple threats that I'm mixing in there all the time, you never quite know what to protect. You know what I mean?
And I think for this spectator, it's a lot more fun as well. And I think that's what people resonate with you, because when they're watching you, they don't know if they will win or you will lose, but they know it's going to be a crazy match. You know, like that's the only thing that's sure there on the table. Right. Yeah, no, that's amazing. And that's one thing, I always wonder, like, what exactly is the heisting? Because, so how will you define, like, in one phrase, what exactly is the heisting?
I use it super loosely to describe anything involving me getting up. Almost anything where I go from a bottom position to get up, especially for the purposes of attacking my opponent, specifically. I think conventionally, most people just look at it as I get up and then we face each other. And this is why people don't do it in jiu-jitsu. You're on your knees. In MMA, heist, I get out of danger. I'm not getting punched in the face. But in jiu-jitsu, people look at this as not a smart idea because I heist, you heist, stand up, and we're both in standing position, and a lot of people in jiu-jitsu are uncomfortable wrestling.
Yeah.
So they look at it as like, well, man, if I heist up, I have to wrestle this guy.
Got it.
And it's like, it doesn't really work like that. You don't have to wrestle. Like I said, as you're getting up, I could go right back into a leg entry. It doesn't have to be this thing where because I get up, I have to wrestle.
Good.
And even when I do choose to wrestle, it's different than it is when we're both standing in front of each other. You know, I'm sure you've seen this at times. You've seen people competing in ADCC. Sometimes the hand fight, I mean, can take a long time for anything to really happen.
And for whoever's watching, that's crazy
right.
boring.
And when you're doing these things like heisting, I think it makes it a little easier to enter into certain takedowns and stuff like that also, because it's not as easy for your training partner to guard themselves with their head and their hands and everything like that because of those multiple threats. So even if I do shoot a single leg on you as that's happening, it's a little harder for you to defend than we're just on our feet hand fighting.
Good. And Garry, if you would just summarize here, so the options from heisting is come up and snap down.
Right.
Come up and pull guard.
Right.
Entries and
right.
Come up and take down.
Right.
Is there any other one? That
I would say also come up to get to the back. Right.
Okay.
I mean, it's obviously within
which kind of like snap down with the back kind of.
And then the last thing, one of the other ones that I'd say is that it's underestimated as like a finish to a sweep also.
Okay.
You know, I think a lot of people sit on their butt and they try to make every sweep like this perfect, beautiful sweep where I go to knock my training partner over and then I roll and get on top. And sometimes you just off balance somebody and then you go in and finish with like a double leg or something like that. And in that way, heisting up to get on top instead of just waiting for that perfect sweep is a better way to finish. I remember I coached a guy at Worlds one year, and he hit like what I would refer to as like 6 different sweeps on the opponent, but because they didn't fall down perfectly for him to just roll on top, he never scored points. But if he had just off-balanced the opponent and just drove into him with an ugly double leg, I mean, he probably would have got his points.
No, man, that completely makes sense. Yeah, so guys, Garry's filming an entire structure all about heisting this week. And it's going to be at IBJJFanatics.com. And I don't know if anyone has ever done one instruction only about that. So this is such a great topic that I see that's training like crazy in the no-gi world. So guys, make sure to check it out. It's going to be at IBJJFanatics.com. Maybe by the time you're watching, it's already there. So I hope you guys enjoyed. And thank you, Garry.
Thank you.
Please help me out to grow my YouTube channel. Just click subscribe. And to watch more videos, just click under see more videos. I hope you enjoyed.
IBJJFanatics.com. Use the promo code YouTubeFaria to get 10% off any instructional video. Improve your jiu-jitsu faster.